Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Nurturing the Nurturer webinar. Before we get started, going to pass the baton to our teammate, Diana Reyes, who's going to give instructions on how to participate and listen with Spanish interpretation. Diana, please.
Muy buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Diana y voy a dar instrucciones en cómo activar la interpretación en Zoom. En la parte inferior de la pantalla, haga clic en el globo a la derecha con la palabra interpretación debajo. Cuando abre la ventana, haga clic en SP o español. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Diana. Passing the baton.
Great. Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias, Diana. Good afternoon. It is such a pleasure to be here today with you all. Thank you for taking the time with us to share and to learn together. I am Elena Trueworthy. I'm the Deputy Commissioner at the Office of Early Childhood, and so happy to welcome you all here today for the webinar entitled Nurturing the Nurturer, a Guide to Parental Self-Care. So as I was thinking about today's webinar and was part of the planning process, I chuckled to myself a little bit because this is something that I need to constantly have reinforcements and reminders to do, right? As a mom of three, my attention is pulled in so many different directions, and I feel like I'm constantly in demand. And I wouldn't change that for anything. But I realize that I need to be aware of the toll that that can take on me as a person, right? As a mom and as someone who works in early childhood. And I need to be aware of when it's time to re-energize and to rejuvenate. So some of my comments may resonate with you, whether you're a parent, a guardian, right? Auntie, a titi, abuelo, abuela, a teacher, others who work directly with children, right? Our nature, our calling, kind of who we are is to constantly give and to nurture. And, why? Why is that important? Because you are literally building the brains of those who will be in charge of our future. And here at the OEC, with the Behavioral Health Initiative, just want to give so many thanks to Lorna for her leadership here, has the goal to promote overall wellness, right, and strengthen our system so that all children and families receive the support that they need, right, and doing that through a lens of equity. And you all here today play such an important role in making that happen, right? But that's some of the tension that I think we feel, right, because we know the best way to care for our children in our family is to take care of ourselves, right? It shouldn't be a luxury. It shouldn't be something that is optional, but is really a necessity and it should be a part of how we live our lives, right? Today, you'll hear from parent leaders from both the OEC Parent Cabinet and 2Gen on the importance of the whole family approach, right? Their perspective as parents with lived expertise, as parent leaders, they have the added responsibility of working with us at the state level and partnering with our agencies and across agencies to shape policy and practice. And it's a big responsibility, and we don't take it lightly and need to be very aware of the possibility of burnout. Because as you all know, when you do things well, you're asked to do more and more. So there are two quotes or sayings that when I was thinking about this resonated with me. The first is, take care of myself doesn't mean me first. It means me too. And the second one is, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. So I'm now going to introduce our keynote speakers from Align and Elevate.
Conferencista.
Oh, they come highly recommended by several people, so I'm excited to listen to what they have to share. So a little bit more. Founded by Joe Modeste and Iola Yap Wilson, Align and Elevate is a self-care initiative that presents workshops on boundary intelligence and cultural responsiveness to burnout. Workshops and retreats are custom designed to meet the needs of various target populations and are co-designed by participants. Co-founders Joe and Iola believe that self-care is the best care and give practical examples of how prioritizing self-care may allow you to show up as your best self, an authentic self. A little bit more about Miss Iola Yap Wilson. She's a wife and entrepreneur who loves to travel and learn about different cultures. She founded the nonprofit Welcome Home Connecticut and is an advocate for making everyone feel human, regardless of who they are. Iola is a foodie. We're going to get along really well, Iola, and has probably watched all the YouTube videos about decorating a high-rise apartment in a big city. Joe Modeste is a graduate of the Parent Leadership Training Institute, or PLTI, and a parent ambassador at the Alliance for Bloomfield's Children. She has over 10 years of experience working with parents, families, and individuals as an agent of support and guidance. In 2024, which we're so happy to have, Joe became a member of the Friends National Center for Community-Based Child Abuse Prevention Parent Advisory Council. She is at peace when having raw and emotional, risky discussions, many of which revolve around protected classes, family dynamics, and living in the absence of pretense. So I'll hand it over now to Iola and Joe. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. My name is Iola Yap Wilson, and I'm one of the co-founders of Align and Elevate. Without further ado, we'll go into the slides. If you can show the slide, then we can get started. Excellent. Can you go to the next one, please? Awesome. So today's topic is burnout, and Elena briefly touched on that, and she spoke about recharging. Just like anything else, like a cell phone, a computer, or even a robot, everyone needs to be recharged. And as humans, I feel like, or I know that we should be recharging ourselves throughout the day. And unfortunately, that does not happen at all, or it does not happen often enough. So hopefully in today's presentation, we all can be more cognizant of burnout and how serious it is, and how we can use and apply different self-care techniques and have a plan to prevent it. So what is burnout? I want you to think, or even jot down, or you can type it in the chat. When you think of the word burnout, what words come to mind? You can write down 3 to 5 words. What does burnout mean to you? Or even, what does it look like? What does that look like for you on a daily basis? And I'll give you a few seconds. I'm seeing stress, yes. Can't do it anymore. Yes, yes, yes. Drained. Frustration. Yes, all of those. Exhaustion. Definitely. And I think at one point or the other, all of us have felt burned out in different aspects of our lives. No motivation. Excellent. Very good. Next slide, please. Traumatized. Awesome. Very good. So a textbook definition of burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. Now, looking at that statement, I want us to focus on 2 words. The first one is excessive. So I went to Siri and I asked Siri, what does excessive mean? And she said, more than necessary, more than normal, more than desirable. So when we're thinking of burnout, we're doing things as human beings that are not necessary. We're overdoing. And we all know that when we overdo something, it's never good. If you overdrink, if you overeat, if you oversleep, any of overdoing is always disastrous. So we're doing things that are not necessary. Why are we running around all day and not taking breaks? Why are we taking care of everyone except ourselves? It's not normal. It's not human. Okay. So those are the words. When I think excessive, I want you to jot down necessary, more than necessary. So you can type in the chat if you want more than necessary. Excessive means more than normal. It's abnormal. It's not real. And more than desirable. And let's take a look at the second word, prolonged. What does prolonged mean? Again, I asked Siri, what does prolonged mean? And she said, longer than usual. Imagine doing things that we usually supposed to do, but we're doing it longer. We're giving it more time than we're supposed to. We're giving it more energy than we're supposed to. Those are examples of prolonging. She also said continuous. So we're doing something not just once, we're continually doing it, and not just continually doing it, we're doing it for long periods of time. And I want you to think about work and think about your home and your life in general. Most of the times people think about burnout, they think work, it's work related, right? Being at work or being employed. And it's more than that. It's being at home, taking care of your family. That includes burnout too, because that is part of your life as usual. The sound is low. I hope it's better. I turned it all the way up. Hopefully that's better. And she also said prolonged means lengthen in extent. It's past the scope of what you're able to do, and it's past the range of what you're able to do. So as human beings, we are built to do things to a certain range, to a certain scope, and to a certain extent. And when we extend ourselves beyond that boundary or beyond that line, that is when burnout happens. Next slide. Why does it happen? I remember being in college and the word millennial, these millennials are going around and the word is becoming popular. And we were praised. I'm a millennial myself. And we were praised to being amazing multitaskers. Oh, these are millennials. They can work on the computer and they can talk to you and they can raise their children and they can do all of these things at the same time. And I remember hearing that word and being excited, like, yes, I'm a multitasker. I can do all of these things. I am amazing. Not knowing that it's not amazing to multitask all the time, because multitasking, of course, leads to burnout. Everyone needs to be recharged. So don't be like me and take pride in the term multitasking or being a great multitasker, because again, you are human and you need to take a break. We also pride ourselves in being busy, I think. Oh, what are you doing today? Oh, I have this on my list, that on my list, and the other on my list. I feel like that makes us feel good because we are achieving something, right? But again, the issue is keep going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny, and we're not recharging. And that's when burnout happens. And again, like, checking the things off the list makes us feel good and it makes us feel productive. Let me know if checking things off your list and multitasking doesn't make you feel good. You can put in the chat yes, or you can put no, and let's be honest. Next slide, please. Okay, so how does burnout happen? I saw some people put yes and no, so it could be a yes, or it could be a no. Burnout happens when we avoid being humans for too long. And what does that look like? Next slide. It looks like overworking. So on this slide, we see a few percentages. So for example, we see 84%, 148%, 45%. What do all of those percentages mean? 84% or 84% of remote workers who reported that they work longer hours, as opposed to 61% of workers who work on site. I think naturally you would think, okay, we're remote, we're home, we're not stuck in traffic driving to work, and we are eliminating so many things that people who usually goes on site encounter. But actually the remote workers reported working longer hours because they feel like, oh, they're not commuting, so they can put in extra hours. And then let's look at the middle percentage, which is 148%. That's a huge percentage. And what is that all about? That is screen time. From the year 2020 to 2021, screen time has gone up by 148%, which is insane. And now this leads to other issues because we're on our computers, we're on our iPads, we're on our phones, and we're not interacting with each other in person or live. And then the next percentage is the 45%, and that's the increase in chat messages. Workers reported an increase of 45% chat messages. And I know most, if not all of us, have a job outside of the home, or we are full-time parents, and we can still all relate to all three of these percentages. Everyone is on their phone, everyone is on their iPad all the time, everything is online. And most of us, as soon as we wake up, the first thing we do is check our phones. Yes, you can type yes or no. What's the first thing you usually do? Do you check your phone, check your email, scroll Facebook real quick, scroll Instagram, see what's going on? Yes, 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 yes. And we're not realizing that this screen time is taking our energy away. It's taking time away from ourselves to take care of ourselves, to implement self-care. Next slide, please. All right, what does burnout look like? I think we skipped a slide, but it's okay. So that slide was what does burnout look like? And I want to show you some pictures. It can look like this. Hopefully you can see it. This is a person and they have a battery and the battery is low and it's on red. What does low energy look like to you? To me, it looks like not wanting to do anything. What does low energy look like? You can type it in the chat or jot it down on a piece of paper. When you have low energy, what does that look like to you? Waking up exhausted, yes. Intolerance, definitely drained. No motivation at the moment. Disengagement, yes, yes, yes. Irritable, tired, yes. Irritated, discouraged, and this is what irritation can look like. I call this the many faces of irritation. Some of them are even cut off. Can't sleep. Yes, when you're irritating, you go through so many modes. You're tired, you're snappy, you're yelling at everyone, you disconnect. Burnout can lead to irritation. Burnout can even lead to poor performance, whether it's poor performance at work or at home. So you can go from smiling and happy to sad, discouraged, tired, lackadaisical in seconds because of burnout. Difficult to focus, absolutely. We can also feel disconnected, and I felt disconnected many times because of burnout. It's like you're walking around and you're not there. Do you know the expression, nobody's home? That's how I feel sometimes. I'm walking around and people see my body, they see my face, but I can't express what's happening. Mental balance. Yes, not having a mental balance. So many things are happening. I feel like I'm a blank slate. That's a result of burnout, losing yourself. Another example of burnout, it can look like procrastination. And I know that all of us at one point or the other are procrastinators. So I want you to let me know, what does procrastination look like to you? This picture said, just do it, and it's sweating. That's how I feel. Sometimes I have something to do, but I'm procrastinating until the very last minute to get it done. What do you do when you're procrastinating? Or what are some of the things you don't do when you're procrastinating? When I'm procrastinating, I find everything else to do but the thing I'm supposed to do. Delay until you have a list of things to do, find other things to do. Yes, 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 yes. I remember the other day I was talking to my cousin and I told her I'm planting seeds, and she was like, what? Since when do you plant? Meanwhile, I have a to-do list, but I'm planting seeds because I'm procrastinating. That's because of burnout. You don't want to do what you have to do. Yes. You don't do your paperwork. Yes, yes, yes. We can all relate. Burnout can also look like laziness. You think you're being lazy. People think you're being lazy, but it's actually burnout. You have no energy to do anything. You can't think straight. Remember, burnout is the mental, emotional, and physical. You're laying around all day. You don't know what's happening. It's called burnout. Next slide, please. So yes, this is the rain. This is our raindrops. And burnout, we have laziness, we have lack of purpose. It can help you to feel like you don't belong in the world or you have nothing to present to the world. Sometimes you're wondering, what am I doing with my life? If you feel that way, type a yes in the chat. Have you ever wondered, what are you doing with your life? Or you have nothing to offer. What are you offering to people? What are you offering to yourself? Yes, yes, yes. That could be a cause of burnout. I see a lot of yeses in the chat. Burnout also look like poor dietary choices. What are you eating? Are you working out? Are you exercising? Are you going for walks? Are you stretching? Are you eating chips or are you eating fruits and vegetables? So it definitely shows up like that. Lack of sleep, the poor dietary choices, the disconnection. I'm seeing all the yeses, yes. The irritability, the poor performance. Definitely. The next slide. And after all of this, after irritability, after feeling lazy or appearing to be lazy, after procrastination, after disconnection, lack of sleep, all of these things, what does it lead to? Because it does not just stop there. If we don't take care of it, it leads to other things like, what else do you think burnout leads to? You can type it in the chat. If we're procrastinating, what can happen? If we're disconnecting, what can happen? Depression. Someone put depression, yes. If we're performing poorly at work, what can happen? Someone put bad health or hospital, yes. If we're irritable all the time, who wants to be around an irritable person? What can that lead to? And if we have low energy all the time, chronic physical health issues, yes. It can lead to anxiety. People are saying poor performance, yes. Loss of job, definitely. Not being appreciated. Those are all amazing and true answers. If we don't take care of these symptoms of burnout, not being productive. Very good. Loss of self, most importantly. Yes, loss of self. No joke. Losing relationships. Yes, yes, yes. Next slide, please. So most of you gave the answers. Strained relationships. If you're snapping at people all the time and you're irritable, no one wants to be around you. You're feeling sad and they're feeling sad because now you're not only is your energy drained, you're draining their energy as well. Have you ever been around someone or around a group and they're such Debbie Downers that your energy comes down to match them? That's what burnout can do in your relationships, whether it's with your partner, your children, your extended family, or at work. And someone mentioned you can get physically sick and end up in the hospital. So yes, hospitalization is a repercussion of being burnt out. And I was very happy when I saw someone mention job loss. And I think that goes back to the poor performance. If you're burnt out and you're at work and you're not doing the work, or you're doing the work, but it's not being done on time, or you're not communicating effectively, over time that becomes a big issue. And yes, people do lose their jobs over that. And then someone else mentioned loss of self, which I said I've experienced that, and it's not fun at all because you feel like you're not being valued and you're not bringing value to anyone at all. Next slide, please. So how do we even get there? Let's look at the picture. There's a missing step. How do we get there? The next slide. We have checklists. Now, let me know in the chat if you like checklists or if you use checklists. Let me know. I see love checklists. Checklists are my love language. Yes, I use it. Yes, I like it and I use it all the time. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I don't use checklists and I can relate. Usually when I go grocery shopping, I have a list. And the interesting thing is, I always forget my list at home. I have no clue why I make the list. I guess it just looks nice. But I always forget it. But then we have people who are diligent like you all, who love your checklist and you use it, most of you, because it helps to put things in perspective. But you tell me, why do you have a checklist? To keep things on task? Yes. To remind you what's important? Yes. What are some other reasons you have checklists? To cross things off? Yes. To make notes? Awesome. After you've checked things off of your checklist, do you feel productive? Yes or no? I see feel accomplished. Yes, be more efficient. Do you feel productive after you've checked things off of your list? I'm seeing yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. You can feel productive. You can feel busy, right? You're busy getting things done. When you do get it down, you're productive. You can even feel progressive, like, wow, I am making strides throughout my day, and it feels good. How many feels good when you get the things off your list done early, ahead of time? Sense of accomplishment. Yes, yes, yes. So you feel good when everything is done ahead of time. How many of you add more things to your list if it's done ahead of time? Yes, yes. Adding things to the list, you feel excellent, you feel awesome. Yes, yes, yes. Excellent. Next slide, please. And this is where burnout happens for most of us. We're checking things off of our to-do list, but we are not checking in with ourselves. We're not stopping at the end of the day, or preferably throughout the day, to check in like, okay, let me take a break. Okay, let me indulge in something that I enjoy. So constantly checking things off the list because it makes you feel busy, it makes you feel productive, it makes you feel progressive. But at the end of the day, if you're not checking in with you, how you're doing, how you're feeling, all of those things will eventually not matter because there'll be no more you. Or there won't be the same you because now you're sick. Or now you've lost your job and you're stressed even more. Next slide, please. All right, so Brendan Bouchard said, you finish the day, but you don't feel the day. How many people feel like, okay, I've accomplished all of these things on my checklist, but you haven't checked in with yourself? Let's be honest. Let me know in the chat. You feel accomplished, that you checked off everything on your list, but at the end of the day or throughout the day, you did not check in with yourself. Is that true? Yes or no? Or is that reality for you? I want you to ask yourselves that question. I see yes, true. Yes, yes, yes. Happens all the time, most of the time. True, true, true. And not checking in with yourself or not making yourself a priority definitely leads to burnout. You think you do, yes. Next slide. All right, so we've talked about burnout. We've talked about what it means. We've talked about how do we get there. We've talked about what does it look like. Now I want us to think about how can we prevent it. It's easy for daycare providers to feel exhausted. Yes, it's a very demanding job. I know. I've worked with kids for years. I'm still working with kids in addition to other things. How can we prevent it? I see planning ahead of time. Good, very good, yes. What else can we do to prevent burnout? Next slide. Sharing responsibilities, taking short breaks, excellent answers. Take 10 to 15 minutes of our time. Yes, yes, yes. So when we trying to prevent burnout, I want you to remember 3 words. And the first word is stop. Working with a good team. We're stopping to recognize how we're feeling. After we've recognized what and how we're feeling, we need to feel. So the first word is stop and recognize. The second is to feel. Next slide, please. And what does feeling look like? So the slides were switched. So we have stop, keep going. Next slide. We have stop and then feel. And under feel, we have remove. What exactly are we removing? We're removing whatever the stress is that's bothering us. But let's pause for a second because we can't always remove what's stressing us out. Sometimes it's our kids, our spouses, our family, or people at work. We can't remove them. However, we can lessen the stress. The next slide. So it may be your child, right? Your child isn't waking up on time every morning. It's a fight with your child to get them ready and to get out the door, and every morning is a disaster. And you're really stressed. Part of feeling is asking yourself, what can I do to lessen this? For example, maybe we can plan the night before or plan a week ahead. Maybe put out clothes for every single day. You have Monday to Friday, the clothes that we're going to wear. That can help to lessen the stress. Next slide. We also need to form what I like to call a self-care toolkit or a squad. So you stop, remember first you stop and you recognize the signs. Oh my gosh, I'm getting irritated, I'm getting hot, I'm starting to curse, I'm starting to do all of these things. I'm stressed, right? I'm getting to that burnout part. And then you're lessening what's causing that, or you're removing it if you can remove it completely. And then you're gonna be, so stop, feel, be. You're going to grab your self-care toolkit, and my colleague is going to explain that a little more in the next session. And a toolkit can have different things. It could be call mom or call my sister, or let me grab a chocolate, my favorite thing to do when I'm stressed. Let me eat my chocolate, or let me watch a show. Whatever it is that you've created for your self-care toolkit, I want you to access that. Another important thing to do is to have a squad, your self-care squad. And I want you to really think, who are the key people that you want in your squad? It could be friends or it could be family. You don't need a lot of people. 3, 2, 1, but I would highly recommend more than one. If you have a self-care squad or a toolkit, type yes or no in the chat. No, no, no. Listening to music. It's your time. Yes, yes, yes. No, not yet. Good. So today will be the perfect day to start thinking about who you can have on your side, because no one should be doing life alone. Some people do have their self-care squad. Awesome. Excellent. Next slide, please. So that's B, stop, feel, be. And part of being B, the next slide, is to rebuild. Having a moment alone and taking a nap. Yes, 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 yes. So here we have a picture of, it looks like an old building and it's being renovating. So picture you as the building and you're rebuilding yourself. And you're rebuilding yourself by accessing your toolkit and by accessing your self-care squad, which you will have after this presentation, or you should have at least started it today. The next slide. All right. So that is my part of the presentation. And we all know that burnout, anything that's excessive, if you want to prevent it, you need a plan. There's a saying, plan to fail or fail to plan. And so with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Jo, and she will discuss about a burnout prevention plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Iola, and good afternoon, everyone. And again, I am Jo Modeste. A lot of times, self-care and burnout prevention is marketed to us as buying a product or receiving a service, like getting a massage or a manicure or a pedicure. But when Iola and I were forming Align and Elevate, we challenged that definition because we wanted to understand that self-care has to be self-sustainable. Depending on whether or not the world shuts down, you still need to have a self-care plan in place. So we made the distinction between having a self-care plan and a self-maintenance plan. So things like getting your hair done or your nails done fall more under the self-maintenance umbrella, and self-care is customized to you. What are your unique set of circumstances, and what does your life look like? So consider the raindrops, the stresses that come from your roles, responsibilities, and titles, and consider the umbrella as putting up protection and putting self-care and intentional self-care in place. Next slide, please. So what we need to do to prevent burnout is to truly prioritize what things in our life should be first. So whether or not we need to prevent over scrolling, if we need to unwind at our desk, if we need to be more social, or if we need to be less social, these are the things we need to prioritize. Also, remembering what makes us passionate about things. So if we have a gardening passion that we haven't been focused in on, reconnecting what really truly drives us. Next slide, please. So another thing that is important to prevent burnout is taking your decision-making temperature. Whenever you're challenged or asked to take on another role, you have to ask yourself, do I want to take on this role, responsibility, or task? If the answer is no, you need to clearly communicate your boundaries, because uncommunicated boundaries are very hard to honor. And if the answer is yes, you want to still make sure that the boundaries that you've established are honored. You also want to check in with your mental, emotional, and physical bandwidth. If you want to do something, but mentally you just can't take it, or emotionally it would be very challenging for you, your heart is in the right place, but it may be something that you don't want to take on at this time. Another bandwidth category is physical. Sometimes things allow you to be more physical than you have the bandwidth to do. And while you do want to take on the role, responsibility, or task, you're just not able to physically meet the needs of that responsibility. Next slide, please. So with intentional self-care, you identify what the life stressors are, which are the raindrops. You intentionally put a plan in place, which is holding up your umbrella. Step 1 would be to recognize your body's warning signs. Step 2 would be to activate your self-care support squad and toolkit and communicate your boundaries. And again, if you don't communicate your boundaries, or if you're not in touch with what your boundaries are, they're very hard to be honored, and that may breed resentment towards the people who are in your life. And then step 3 would be to rebuild, strengthen, and practice your self-care journey. Next slide, please. So what we like to do at Align and Elevate is to create practical examples of how you may put a self-care plan and burnout prevention plan in place. So in this example, one of Joseph's children is having an issue at school, and he's gotten several calls from teachers while he's at work. He still has to manage his workload, and he's starting to fall behind because of the time spent talking to the school. He wants to ensure that his child has everything they need, but to succeed at getting a promotion in the near future, he still has to be on top of things. So what can his burnout prevention plan look like? Well, I want to just take some time to think, what does burnout prevention look like when you're tasked with doing well at home, and you're also tasked with doing well and performing at your job? Next slide, please. So he identified the stressors, the raindrops, and what he can do is stop to recognize what his body's warning signs are. Maybe every time the school calls, he gets a visceral reaction from seeing the number pop up on his phone. He needs to stop and feel. He needs to activate his self-care support squad. Maybe he needs to have family members come in to support. Maybe ask the teacher for flexibility as far as what time they make the phone calls, and also reach out to his supervisor and explain the situation and probably request increased flexibility. And then B, rebuild, strengthen, and practice his self-care journey. Maybe while he's on the phone with the teachers, he can be walking, so he's taking care of himself at the same time. and maybe he's scheduling these calls so that they're predictable in nature and he's not spending that time away from his job. Next slide, please. This is another real life scenario. In the past few months, Sandra noticed that she's been increasingly irritable and short-tempered. Although she has enjoyed her career in the past, she catches herself mentally checking out at meetings, and the quality of her work has declined. She normally offers to stay after work to complete time-sensitive projects, but she doesn't feel up to it anymore. What can her burnout prevention look like? Next slide, please. So she needs to take her decision-making temperature. Does she want to take on this role, responsibility, or task? The answer may in fact be yes. But then when you check in with your mental, emotional, and physical bandwidth, she needs to really realize that she may not have it in her as much as she wants to take on more responsibility. So in your life, you need to also take your decision-making temperature. If it is something that you want to do, make sure that your boundaries are clearly communicated and make sure that they're honored as well. And if the answer is no, clearly communicate that you just don't have it in you, or simply leave the answer as no. Next slide, please. Again, she can apply the intentional self-care umbrella, identify the stressors, and then go through steps 1 through 3. Next slide, please. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to read this example and then understand that the person in this scenario would also apply the decision-making chart that will be shown next to this particular scenario. So Julie has been asked to become a long-term foster parent to her 1-year-old niece. Her sister has some addiction issues that need to be addressed, and she doesn't want her niece to go to a family that she's completely unfamiliar with. She knows that this is a huge responsibility and is sure that her lifestyle is going to change for the foreseeable future. What can her burnout prevention look like? And again, she needs to clearly communicate what her boundaries are. What are the things that she will do, and what are the things that she doesn't have the bandwidth to do? Can she employ some people on her self-care squad, get respite services in place, and then make an informed decision based on honoring her boundaries? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. Okay, so Adeline and Elevate, affirmations are really a big deal for us. We believe that they create new neurotransmitters that allow us to reprogram what we've learned. Burnout is not something that we should get used to or make a normal part of our lives. So during the height of the pandemic, Iola came up with an affirmation deck that we use very widely in our workshops. One of the affirmations is, I will not compare myself to others. I am a masterpiece. I can't afford to lose myself again. These affirmations allow us to connect with ourselves, to mentally and subconsciously check in with ourselves every day or as often as we would like. Next slide, please. So as parents, caregivers, people who work with children, this is one of the affirmations that we've developed especially for this population. I am deserving of and have the power to create a burnout prevention plan that serves my unique life circumstances. So if you just repeat this to yourself, it'll start you thinking on the fact that it's not something that you have to earn, it's something that you deserve. So again, I am deserving of and have the power to create a burnout prevention plan that serves my unique life circumstances. Next slide, please. And again, as we went over earlier, self-care is not selfish. This affirmation states that I understand that self-care is not selfish, and it supports the ability for me to show up as my best authentic self. Next slide, please. Okay, and again, boundaries. Often when we have not seen boundaries that were healthy and modeled for us, we tend to think that boundaries may make us the villain. However, boundaries allow us to show up in our best authentic way. So this affirmation states, having healthy boundaries is the most sustainable way to show my gifts and talents with the world. Next slide, please. So as we close out, we just wanted to give you a few resources to prevent burnout on your self-care journey. Burnout, The Cost of Care by Christina Maslach is a very good burnout prevention book. Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. Can't Even, How Millennials Became the Burnout Generation. And one of my personal favorites, Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab. Next slide, please. That has been our presentation, and we appreciate all of your participation. If you have any questions, comments, or would like to contact us, we can be reached at the information provided on your screen. And again, we encourage you to prioritize self-care and prevent burnout. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joe. Oh my, thank you both, Joe and Iola. Wonderful presentation, wonderful message reminding us of the importance of self-care. Thank you so much again. And with us continuing to hear some words of advice as it pertains to self-care, please enjoy a brief video collage that represents parents that have participated in our For Families by Families Keep It Real video series. This was an opportunity for us to hear from parents in a keep it real kind of way on various topics and in response to various questions. And please watch this video collage with respect to self-care. Passing it on.
In terms of supporting my own mental health, I think it's really important to find time, even like 5 minutes at a time, to do things that are just for you. It can be really overwhelming over the course of the day. You can feel touched out by your kids. You can feel like none of your time is your own. Sometimes even 5 minutes in the bathroom alone can be a bit of a respite if your kids don't come in and find you there too. But I think, whether it's reading a chapter of a book, going out for a walk or a run, journaling, I find to be really good for de-stressing. Taking a bath or a shower, these types of almost self-care tips that can also be just really helpful for your mental health care as well on a daily basis.
Meditation. I know that sounds so cliche, but meditation. Stretching if I need to. Getting up every morning, stretching. Getting a glass of water, chugging that first thing in the morning. And if I don't feel okay, honor my feelings.
I found that taking time out early in the morning, when the house was still sleeping, was like my me time and my time to ground myself and kind of prepare myself, and bring forth like all that good energy to my day. Gratitude pulls you away from complaining, and it pulls you away from looking at your situation like, oh, I'm so tired. This is just way too much.
My favorite forms of self-care when I need a break are probably simple things. Taking a long shower by myself, preferably. Nobody's coming at the door, no tiny hands are sneaking under the door. Eating ice cream, going for a walk, just anything that kind of makes me happy. Take a moment to yourself, even if it's like a night to yourself, whatever it might be. Give yourself permission to just forget everything. But it's really hard. I feel like burnout is, it's stressful times in the world, and just burnout is bound to happen, but you have to take care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you can't be the best you can be for your kids anyway. So it needs to be done.
Thank you so much to those parents, and want to also express appreciation to our teammates at O'Donnell for helping to produce those videos. Now we're going to move on with our program and to hear from wonderful leaders within OEC as it pertains to our Parent Cabinet and Gen. So passing the baton to Shanae Russell and Christina Morales, who will share more with you about change agents and how we can certainly lead from our role as parents and caregivers. Shanae and Christina, passing it to you.
Thank you, Lorna. Hello, everyone. I'm so thankful that you all have taken the time to be here with us. I wanted to first start out by saying when I feel overwhelmed, I stop and simplify. Where clutter feels heavy, simplicity elicits bliss. From now on, I'll work towards simplifying my life in any way I can. I'll simplify my to-do list, my routine, my home, and my responsibilities. Simple just feels nice. And so I wanted to open up with that and share that with you. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about Connecticut's 2Gen initiative. So what is Connecticut's 2Gen initiative? It exists in many communities, and it looks like maybe a family resource center in your school or in your community. It can also look like a school-based health clinic. It can look like programs that bring together families and children in one space and place where training may be happening and childcare can also exist. It brings parents and caregivers, child systems and policies together to support the whole family towards well-being and economic mobility. It helps children and parents get the education, the training, and social supports they need to succeed. And it allows parents the ability to pass on economic security to their children. So that can also look like job centers in Connecticut, like welfare to work programs. And so they provide tons of resources and training opportunities to make sure that families are getting all of the education, training, and supports that they need to be successful for themselves and to pass that on to their children. And so here's our 2Gen structure. So it's me, your statewide 2Gen coordinator, helping to facilitate and coordinate this initiative across the state. We have a 2Gen executive leadership team. And if you look on the bottom of the slide, our team exists of the Office of Early Childhood Leaders, the Commission on Children, Women, Seniors, Equity, and Opportunity, the University of Connecticut School of Social Work, and then it also brings together the team, which is our, we have a few other folks who are consultants, which also participate on this executive leadership team. We have our 2Gen advisory board, and of that 2Gen advisory board, we have 25% of the members are parents. And so what's great about that is that our parents are the expertise and they are helping guide our 2Gen's policy and program strategies. They help us address benefit cliffs, elevating parent voice across state government. They help us with transportation solutions and program alignment across different agencies. Our 2Gen initiative also brings together the executive branch. There's different perspectives and alignment in work. We have 2 work groups, our parent engagement work group and our family economic mobility work group. And I can't wait for our parents today who are on the panel to share with you all of their experiences in terms of how they are taking care of themselves and what they are doing with their families. They have so much value to add, and we appreciate them being on our 2Gen advisory board. Next slide. Oh, sorry. Go back one. And so lastly, I just wanted to share that 2Gen's theory of change, we place parents at the center of voice. We place parents at the center of policy, and we place parents at the center of practice. And by engaging a diverse set of stakeholders to advise on any needed policy or program changes, and by engaging stakeholders with the authority to change policy, family economic mobility and family well-being will improve in Connecticut through this 2Gen initiative. Shanae?
All right, thank you, Christina. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all. And I am going to be talking about the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood Parent Cabinet. So to briefly review, the Parent Cabinet is a diverse parent-led 15-member advisory group to the Office of Early Childhood, which has been around for the last 2.5 years. And it's the first group and the first one for the agency. And this is really essential to ensure that we are hearing directly from parents, and they are telling us what's happening on the ground. There was legislation that was passed, so the Parent Cabinet is in statute, and all the parents serve a 2.5-year term and spend around 68 hours yearly, and they all receive a stipend for their time. Some of what the Parent Cabinet helps provide family perspective and guidance on, or how the agency can improve legislation and policies related to young children and their families. This can look like bringing awareness around policies around birth to 3, or around hours for childcare, and many more services that the Office of Early Childhood oversees. Also around how the agency can increase authentic partnerships with families, and how those how our divisions can help strengthen those partnerships with the families that they serve. And then also around understanding and elevating the needs from young families from across the state and from different backgrounds, and ensuring that they are brought up to the state level. And so we meet monthly virtually, and the parents come to us and they tell us what they're hearing within their region, and some of the key issues that are coming up that are important for us to hear at the state level for the commissioner and deputy commissioner. And then you are able to find out more on the OEC website, where you'll see a map. There are 6 regions, which are the Department of Children and Families regions, and we have Parent Cabinet members that serve in these regions. And you can see also bios of all the members and their pictures, and you can see we are joined today by a few of our Parent Cabinet members, which we're so happy that they will be able to speak with you. And then this is a visual to kind of show the feedback loop that we are hoping to have between at the state level through the Parent Cabinet down to the local level. And a key part of that I'll highlight is the local parent ambassadors, who serve under the local early childhood collaboratives in different communities. And they kind of help to bring that local information up to the state level. So if there are very important issues that are happening or common themes, they bring it up, and the parents kind of share, like, this is not working, and really hearing from those that are lived experience around what's working, what's not, and how things can be improved, which at the state level we don't often hear. So it's a nice way to have that direct systems and direct connection to parents. And these are the 6 regions broken out here. And then we're very excited to say that we are right now currently accepting applications for new Parent Cabinet members to start in 2 different times, either in July 2024 or January 2025. But we are accepting applications through like the middle to end of March, and you can find out more on the website. But very exciting, and if anyone is interested in serving or any parent leadership, please reach out. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanae. Thank you, Shanae, and thank you, Christina, so much for your leadership in helping to elevate the parent caregiver voice. We certainly know that it's vital for parents and caregivers to be at the table. And speaking at the table, we have the wonderful opportunity now to hear from several of our change agents, several of our leaders in the community with our panel discussion. So we started off talking about self-care, and then we went into some actions of how to do so. This is an opportunity to see how it works together. And we're honored to have with us on our panel, starting with Miranda Bonifeston. I'm so apologize if I did not pronounce your last name correctly, but she is a wonderful teammate and Parent Cabinet member. We also have Caitlin Heffernan, also a Parent Cabinet member, and Maria Vargas, another Parent Cabinet member. And then making up our 2-gen membership, we have Stefan Palmer, Shanae Fulton, and Keisha Gibbs. So glad to have all of you with us. Thank you so very much. And so with that, we'd like to ask some questions for us to engage in discussion, because it's important to practice what we preach. First off, if you each can please share the ages of your children or child and how you describe your role as a parent or caregiver. Again, if you can please share the ages of your child or children and how you describe your role as a parent or caregiver. May we please start with Stefan?
My children ages are 24, 22, 17, 15, and 8 years old. I'm a father of 5. I'm currently raising my 8-year-old son full time. My self-care usually is me going to get a massage or me taking a weekend and getting away to a hotel room and only answering my phone for my children so that I can shut down, reorganize my thoughts and collect myself, give myself time to rest.
Thank you, Stefan. My, oh my, you certainly are leading by example. And thank you for already sharing how you practice self-care, because as a parent caregiver, it's good to hear that that is already a part of your equation. Thank you so much. Mirinda, to you, please.
Yes, thank you, Lorna. Hi, everyone. I'm Mirinda Montfilston. I'm the mom of a 5-year-old daughter, Layla. She'll be 6 in June. As far as my second part of the question had to do with parenting, how do I identify as a parent? Was that it?
Oh, how do you describe your role as a parent?
Thank you, Lorna.
Certainly.
I would say very hands-on approach. The joke in my house is my daughter has a much more active social life than I do, right? With karate and basketball and swimming. But leading on with Stefan, as he talked a little bit about how he practices self-care, I like to share for myself. I like to take myself out on a date from time to time. I am married, however, just having that time to yourself is important, right? Whether it's enjoying a nice meal for breakfast or a movie, right? At a movie, you don't need someone to enjoy a movie with you. You're there to enjoy the movie. So take care of yourself, right? Prioritize yourself in a way that feels comfortable for you.
Thank you, Mirinda. Caitlin, hearing from you, please.
Yeah, I'm the mom of 3 daughters, 5, 7, and 9. I'd like to describe my role as a parent as an advocate, whether that's day-to-day life, making sure their teachers or coaches know, if something is off or they need something extra that day, as far as that goes, but also to the state level by being on the parent cabinet. I also see myself as my children's teammate. I always want them to feel as though we're in it together rather than against each other, and I think that's very important.
Oh my, I was talking the whole time and I was on mute. Please apologize. Pardon. I was passing the baton to you, Shanae. Thank you, Caitlin, for your response, and passing the baton to you, Shanae, please.
Thank you so much. I am a mom of 2 boys, ages 15 and 13. I currently raise my 15-year-old full-time, and I split time with my 13-year-old and his dad. I would be considered a single-parent household, so I have to somewhat take on the role of the nurturer, the disciplinarian, the educator, the motivator, the driver, the chef, and the housekeeper. So essentially, I wear many hats.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you, Shanae.
Thank you.
Keisha.
Hi, my name is Keisha Gibbs. I'm a mother of 3, an 8-year-old, a just turned 7-year-old, and a 4.5-year-old. My role, I would say I'm a stay-at-home mom. So it's encompassing everything for my husband as well as for my children. So self-care is very important as I have struggled with burnout and mental health issues. So I make sure I take time for myself alone, whether that's watching my favorite show, journaling, or even doing artwork.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you. Maria.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Lorna. Well, I am the mother of 3 young adults, 26, 24, and 21. And I would describe my role currently as definitely an advocate. I still advocate because we have medical issues, so I advocate in a different scenario now. But I also as a mentor, a friend, and their biggest cheerleader. I think that, excuse me, my role begins to change as they become adults, where I am there to listen and only listen unless I'm asked for feedback or an opinion. So a lot of the biting of the tongue as a parent sometimes, but that's okay. They're on their own journey, each of them. And I'm very proud of the the path that they're taking. But it is their journey, whether I agree with it or not at times. So it's their decisions, and they will live by their decisions. But you always parent. I think no matter how old your children are, you are always parenting. You're showing them, how it is to grow as an adult, how it is to grow in the workplace. So I believe that you continually parent. I see my in-laws still showing us, how it is to be a grandparent, how it is to be an older adult in the household. So I truly believe you once you're a parent for the rest of your life. How do I self-care? I would say that sometimes it's just deep breaths, to be honest with you, depending on the day. Sometimes it's just breaths. I do try to take in the fresh air. I like the one about watching a movie. I can relate to that. I used to love to read. Don't get a lot of time to read, but definitely just putting on a comedy or a movie that you can just kind of escape from everything else that's going on.
Thank you, Maria, and thank all of you. And we intentionally had the first question to be to share the ages of your children. Why? Because your primary full-time job always is as a parent, and Maria made reference to that. However, we know that we cannot lose sight that we also are individuals. And we were individuals before we became a parent. So respecting your role as parents, we wanted to start off in that way, but do want to encourage us to pivot now to focus more on you and the individual part of you. So the questions will be touching on the individual part of you. And you all already jumped into answering and sharing ways of self-care that you practice. We're going to go a little bit deeper. Want to hear more from you. What do you think about when you think about self-care, and what type of activities represent self-care? Sometimes you can watch commercials of people traveling and being on the beach and somewhere far away, but real talk, that can't always happen. So I want to hear from you, please, to share with us, what are some ways to practice self-care? What activities come to mind for you when you think about self-care? And let us please start with Keisha.
For me, when I think of self-care, it's two things. As I said before, I did struggle with burnout and mental health issues. So self-care for me is the word no. It's being able to say no, and not overextending myself. The activities that I really, really love to do is anything with art, anything with creativity, because that's just my place. That's the place and space that's the most me. And so when I'm the most me, then I can be me for my family and for others.
Thank you, Keisha. Saw lots of heads nodding as you were speaking, and maybe those that are listening as well. We see a hand applause. Yes, yes. Stefan, what about for you, please?
For me, self-care is realizing I have to take care of me in order to take care of everybody else. I would say before this year, I kind of wore my heart on my sleeve and put everybody else before me. So learning, as Keisha said, learning to make time for me at the end of the day, and learning that I also have to do self-inventory on myself at the end of the day to make sure I'm okay. With very big things for me to do this year.
Well said. Thank you. Miranda, what about for you when you think about self-care? What comes to mind?
Yes. So just to add, I would say for me, it was about learning how to establish boundaries, right? As Keisha and Stefan talked about, often it's important to be realistic about what I can actually take on additionally, right? What I can commit to. Am I able to give my full self? And so that's something I've been working on the last couple of years, particularly during the pandemic. And it's an everyday practice, right? But just being okay with, it's okay, if it's not an emergency, it's okay to say no, right? I think it's hard to sit with that sometimes, but with more practice, it's become easier. Where it's like, all right, I said no, whether it's to my significant other or to work or extracurricular activities, but it's okay, right? I have to take care of myself and prioritize myself so that I can be the best at whatever it is that I do need to get accomplished.
Absolutely. Well said indeed. And tagging along with that, thank you, Miranda. Maria, what about for you?
So I agree with everything that's been mentioned so far. The only thing I would add is I look to see what actually brings me joy and enjoyment and what is actually most important in my life. So for me, it is very spiritually based. So I tend to go toward that route for self-care in the spiritual sense and learning more about my own spirituality and always taking just today, the moment, being present. So I've learned to be a lot more present the last few years, where I know that that's what's most important. What do I want to focus on this moment? And being okay with sometimes you just can't do it. For instance, today I had hoped to be on by 12:30. It didn't happen, but life happens and it's okay. So I think that that's been huge for me, because not feeling that guilt or just stressing myself out because I can't get here. It is what it is. And sometimes just being okay with it is what it is.
It is what it is. And with all that it is, we are glad that you are here with us today. Thank you. Thank you. Shanae.
Thank you so much. For me, self-care varies. I've always been labeled as a woman who pours into others, but I need to take a step back and to pour into myself. So it kind of depends on my day and my mood. Sometimes I can meditate, write, read, take a walk on the trail. There's other days where I want to just blast music and dance and sing around my house. I'm honestly a night owl, so a lot of times I take a lot of my self-care in the evenings, to be perfectly honest, because it's when everyone is kind of sleeping and they've mellowed out. Now I'm not blasting my music then, but I'm more just in my own space. I have like a little nook in my living room, so I may sit there. That is when I'm reading, I'm writing, I'm meditating. Although I do that in the morning times, but because of the day, you kind of tend to do everything else, but not really focus on yourself as much. And I think I have a lot more time to focus on my self care in the evening time. Um, and a lot of times it also is me just taking a break away from my children when they're in school, obviously, but I may take a break away from my children even on a weekend. And I'm like, I just need to just go out and I need to take a walk. I need to go to the nail shop or do something that I just enjoy for me. And they're older, so they can kind of be left to themselves to fend for themselves for a few hours while mommy is out taking care of herself.
Well said, Shanae. Thank you. Thank you. And time of day, yes, does matter. Yes, thank you. Caitlin.
Yeah, I think the key to self-care for me is uninterrupted time. I like to read books. Sometimes I've had a week and reading books just would take too much of my brain power, so I watch reality TV. Um, if it's a busy week, I'll show up to my kids' car loop a little early after getting a coffee from my favorite coffee shop. And I think it's just uninterrupted, peaceful time doing basically nothing.
Thank you. Thank you. And what was so interesting, thank you for what all of you shared. A common thread or theme with each of your messages. You talked about establishing boundaries, learning to say no, being present, recognizing one's faith and spirituality, the time of day, evening hours when it's more quiet, an uninterrupted time, and many other pieces. But if you notice, of everything that you described, not one of it costs a thing. Everything you just mentioned did not cost 1 cent. So that just speaks all the more to the importance of self-care and not using the excuse of it's going to cost too much. No, 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 because each of you just listed things that did not cost a thing. So with that, have another question for you. What may hinder or prevent you from practicing self-care on a consistent basis? Not a one and done, not a day here or an hour there, but on a consistent basis, keeping it real in terms of the talk. What prevents that from happening? Miranda, starting with you, please.
Yes. All right, keeping it real, Lorna. I struggle with, so I love exercising as far as going to classes, right? Yoga and Zumba. But honestly, I struggle with creating that routine, right? And so a lot of it has to do with just my schedule changing a lot, right? Sometimes I'm taking my daughter to school, sometimes I'm picking her up. I find when I take her to school, then after work I can attend to that, right? But now my schedule has changed and I'm on pickup. So it's like, all right, I've already have so much. My days already jam-packed between 9 and 5. where do I have time to really craft into those exercise classes, right? And what I found with myself is that's how that's how I hold myself accountable, right? For me, that's what works. Not a video, which I'm realizing I just have to be more creative and flexible now. But, you know, when I could do it in person, like that's how I hold myself accountable. Physically going to a class versus a video when it's just me. So now it's more so about finding an accountability partner who can say, hey, did you do that video today? Did you find 5 or 10 minutes, during your day to just craft out some time to exercise, right? And so that's something that I've been struggling with. And I do think as a checklister, right? It's like, I want to check that off, and get it done. But I just realized life happens, right? And as Maria was saying, we have to give ourselves grace. So that's kind of where I am, where it's like, all right, finding that time, dedicated time, as you mentioned. And it's like, and then I guess I'm just thinking what Shanae was saying about finding that time of day that works for you. For me, maybe I need to get up earlier. And I'm going to be honest, I don't want to. So I have to figure out what time of day works now that my, pickup schedule has changed. Because again, I got to find that time. And it's just hard, between 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But maybe I need to look at weekends, right? Because I feel like Saturdays aren't my day. It's really family time. It's really Layla's day. But maybe Sundays, right? Where it's like, nope, this is my time. And I have to stick to that schedule.
We heard you say it. Can't unhear it. Thank you, Miranda. All right. Shanae.
Thank you. Honestly, I never knew what self-care was, so I never did it. I did not set time to do something because I didn't know what that was. I felt like I'm a mom, so my happiness lies in doing for others and for my kids, and that was stressful. I felt the need to do any and everything and be there for everyone. And I felt like if I didn't step in, it wouldn't get done or wouldn't be done in the way that I wanted to be done because there's a perfectionist in me. So I just kept pouring and pouring and doing certain things. But also, if you're like me, you don't know when or how to ask for help so that your load can be lightened and not creating boundaries. So I think those are the things that have hindered me in the past. I've done a little bit better. I've heard someone say the power of no. And I've learned how to say no now, where I didn't know how to do that much before. So I would say that is what's hindered me in the past. I'm doing a lot better with that, though.
And we're proud of you for doing better with that. Good, good. Caitlin.
Yeah, of course, schedule with sports and 3 kids can be a hindrance, but I just want to talk about me a year ago because I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. And I feel like for stay-at-home parents, you struggle with when your role as parent, your job per se, ends and when your time starts. And I feel like I was really trapped in that 24 hours a day. This is my role. This is what I do. And I just think it's really important to say that stay-at-home moms or dads, they really struggle with like, okay, so when do I stop this and worry about myself?
Thank you, Maria, for enlightening us in that perspective. Yes, yes, indeed. Stefan.
For me, what would keep me from doing self-care? My children. As a single parent, you spend a lot of time making sure they have what they need. And I have 5, 2 in college, and 3 2 in middle school, and 1 in 3rd grade. So they're all over the place, emotionally, social media wise, which is something learning is new with kids. That's a part of their mental effect, and just learning to step away and realize as a parent, it's okay to take time to do something. It's okay to go sit down outside and just watch people walk by without jumping up to do something. So, I mean, just realizing that even as a parent, it's important is very a journey I went through like last year.
A journey indeed. Yes. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you. Keisha.
For me, the things that would prevent me from really taking time for self-care is 2 things. Not valuing myself enough. like I'll value everyone else and say, well, they're worth the pouring into, they're worth, getting all these things done for them, but not for me. And so I'm changing my mindset on the thoughts of, okay, why am I not valuable? The other thing that prevents me from self-care is making things too big. Instead of thinking of an hour of exercise, how about 10, 15 minutes? 10, 15 minutes, write down in a journal, take, 5 minutes to do something for myself instead of this massive, like if I don't get 30, an hour, 2 hours in, it's not enough. And so I've learned to change my mind on that. Like small is still significant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Maria, words from you.
Oh, thank you. So I'm going to echo Stefan and Keisha. Is it Keisha? I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correct. Okay. Because I think for me, it's that combination of not prioritizing me at the same level of my children. So it echoes that and not taking the time for me. And, absolutely finding those 20 minutes, 10 minutes a day, which seems like we should be having. But for some strange reason, sometimes it just doesn't happen. And then we go from one day to the next, and still those 10 minutes don't appear there because you're doing 101 other things for everyone else. And I think learning to, and that's been a journey. That is definitely a journey I'm still working on, saying, well, I am as deserving as everyone else. So that's my journey right now.
Absolutely, and one that many of us are on. Thank you all so very much for being honest and sharing what may hinder you from practicing self-care, and appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that. And with all of what you said, I think it's so important to, and Akeisha, you touched on this, as did others, with recognizing and appreciating whatever time we may have. Appreciating those 10 minutes as opposed to an hour. And what can help us in that regard is someone else referenced this in terms of our thinking, how we reframe our thinking, because we know the way that we think leads to how we feel. And the way we feel motivates what we do. And so if you tell yourself this 10 minutes is my 10 minutes, hey, take advantage of that. But let me stop going on because I want to hear more from you. So recognizing you all have shared how you view self-care, different ways you like to practice self-care, and kind of what has been holding you up from practicing self-care on a consistent basis. Please share, years before you became a parent, what advice would you give yourself, your younger self that is, about the importance of taking care of yourself and why it's important? So I want you to take a moment to go back some years before you became a parent, before you took on the role of being mom, dad, grandma, mama, whatever the case may be. What words of advice would you give yourself then about why self-care is important? Maria, may we start with you, please?
Oh, I wanted to be the last one. No. I think I would have said exactly what I just said before. You are as worthy to be taken care of as everyone else. And it's up to you to set that boundary and make time for yourself. So I would have just reiterated, instead of having this journey and this path of learning to, as we've said in the past, say no and set boundaries, just from the beginning, saying, you need to carve out time for yourself every day.
Absolutely, you are worthy. Thank you, Maria. Shanae.
Thank you. I would say making wiser decisions, such as what and whom I gave my time and energy to, because poor decisions definitely result in the potential for overwhelming life and overextension in some areas. In my case, being a single parent, because now I'm wearing multiple hats, even when I don't want to. So I think I would have made wiser decisions.
Thank you, Shanae. Caitlin.
Yeah, I think I would tell my younger self that seeking everyone else's approval can be exhausting, and do what makes you happy. And I think social media really adds to this dynamic because we all see everyone's best selves on their profiles. And if we were all truly real, everyone's struggling, everyone has insecurities. And I think the only thing you can do is do what makes you happy.
Well said, Caitlin. Yes, yes. Thank you. Miranda.
All right, it's really hard to go after Caitlin. I think I would tell my younger self the importance of creating boundaries much earlier in life, right? It's taken me a long time to figure out how to do that, but I think it would have saved me a lot of burnout, right? I've been a yes person for a long time and just feeling like I have to please and help everyone, take care of everyone, just understanding that that's okay, right? Boundaries are important and they're very healthy and can be helpful in the long run.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you, Miranda. Stefan.
I would tell a younger me to spend time understanding self-worth and developing himself before we
Absolutely. Self-worth. Yes. Yes, indeed. Thank you. And Keisha.
This would kind of echo Miranda, but I would say you cannot be everything to everybody, and it's okay. Like, take the time to know who you are, take the time to know your capacity, and you just cannot be everything for everybody.
Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing your conversation with your younger self. And so, our last question, one for you now to share some words of advice that you would pass on to your children. So, what do you want your legacy to be for your children? What values do you want to pass on to your children about the importance of self-care? Miranda.
That's a great question. And it's interesting because I feel like my 5-year-old already has an idea of how to say no very well. It's very independent. So just, yeah, letting her understand that it is, well, in addition to it being okay to say no, to prioritize herself, right? And that, she has to take care of herself, know herself, be with self, before creating her own community.
Indeed. Thank you. Caitlin.
Yeah, I think my most important thing would be to model all of the things we've talked about today for them, where they see what I do to create balance and interpret that into their own way in their own lives. I want to make sure they know no matter how busy our schedule gets, we've had chances for real connection. And I think the most important thing is being able to ask for help. So I hope that I'm a resource to them that they feel comfortable asking for help when they need it.
Thank you, Caitlin. Maria.
So I'm at a stage where I'm able to see those fruits where my children actually do have very good self-care skills. A little bit too much, I would say at times, but that's a whole other conversation. But I'm going to echo what Miranda said before. My son, when he was about 5 or 6, I was calling him for something, and he wasn't answering. So I go to the room and do you not hear me? He goes, Mom, this is me time. And and I just laugh. It's me time, and I'm like, okay. And I walked out. So the knowing the importance of me time, that it is fundamental for our health.
Yes, we can learn from our children. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Maria. Stefan.
Well, what I taught my children was to take time for themselves. No matter what's going on throughout the day, no matter how overwhelmed or how excited you might feel for a moment, take a step back and just think about yourself and think about the joy or things you can do to overcome or improve yourself. Never forget that you are important. My 8-year-old son came home yesterday, homework, me, a parent, okay, let's get to this table. We got to do work. No, you told me I could take a moment for myself and I need that moment right now. All I could do was respect it. So, seeing the fruits and seeing your children adhere to what you teach.
That's evidence you've done well, Stefan. Done well. Thank you. Shanae.
Thank you. I would say taking the time to learn who you are and whom's you are. And when you know yourself, it's invaluable to decisions that you make in life because they can have a larger impact on you in the present and in the future. breaking the generational cycles that are detrimental. So you will make mistakes, but you can learn from them and follow the advice and the wisdom from those before you, because we have life experiences. And yeah, I think just following the wisdom of those before you would be key.
Indeed, because wise they are. Thank you, Shanae. And last but certainly not least, Keisha.
Oh, the things that I would leave for my three children is not to live up to the expectations of whether it's family or society or anybody that would say, like, you have to do and you have to be and you have to get this done now. I didn't get that chance to learn that. I'm getting that chance now, but I want them to get that earlier, where they can say, okay, what kind of life do I want to live? What do I value? I'm not going to run the rat race that everyone runs because everyone's on it. Do I want peace? Do I want good relationships? Do I want good mental health? I'm going to pace myself in that direction. So not living up to others' expectations of who and what they should be doing and where they should be.
So well said, Keisha. Absolutely. And thank you to all of you, because all of what you all have shared has been well said. And I so appreciate, again, a common thread, a common theme with all of your words of advice to your children is about how it's important to know within yourself who you are, what you want, and who you are striving to please. It's so important to have that sense of self-confidence. So thank you all so very much for your words of wisdom. We certainly know why you are represented on the Parent Cabinet, and to Jen, because you do it so well. So thank you so much again for sharing. And we encourage for you all the things that you said of how you can practice self-care and what may be holding you back. We all heard it. So we're encouraging for you now to work towards doing it on a more consistent basis. And so with that, passing the baton to Miranda, who's going to introduce a suggested activity of how to practice self-care. Miranda, to you, please.
Yes, thank you. All right, 1 second. Well, I first wanted to take a moment to share my favorite self-care quote by Audre Lorde, which reads, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." And I find this quite powerful, that self-care can be considered a revolutionary act. But in terms of our self-care video activity, we are going to look at a short video clip about laughter yoga. If you have not experienced laughter yoga yet, it is a modern exercise involving prolonged voluntary laughter. And this type of yoga is based on the belief that voluntary laughter provides similar physiological and psychological benefits, as well as spontaneous laughter. So we encourage you to have an open mind. Without further ado, check out our laughing yoga self-care video.
Laugh for health. Laugh for healing. It's about time we let go and laugh more. Now, there was a time I looked for something or someone to make me laugh. But when I depended on those external factors, I went days without laughing until I found laughter yoga. Laughter yoga gave me a safe space to connect with others and laugh. And I was so impassioned by it that I became a laughter teacher. I'm going to invite you now in this session of laughter yoga. I want you all to stand in your glory. All right, now I have to say something. When we start laughing, it always feels slightly uncomfortable. So, to help us with that, I want you to do this. What you're doing right now is shooing away all the judges that sit on your shoulders day in and day out judging you. They're gone. The next thing we're gonna do, take your hands, spread them wide, and let's go with the beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Ho, ho, ha, ha, ha. 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 Very good. All right, let's bring it Are your hands tingling? We're alive. All right. Now, we have a saying in laughter yoga. Fake it till you make it. But even if you don't make it, it doesn't matter because science proves that regardless of whether the laughter is real or fake, the body makes no distinction. So when you engage in this action called laughter, the body follows suit and you start feeling the emotion connected to laughter. This is how we actually help decrease the cortisol in our body and increase endorphins. So let's do it. Now, we gotta get out of our heads. So we're gonna do this laughter exercise called the brainwash. So follow me. Put your hands like this, and we're gonna unzip with a sound. Gonna open it up. Take your brains. You see it? And now wash. Very good. Okay, let's do another one. We got to get into the nooks and crannies of the brain, so we got something called the mental floss. So you're going to take your floss and put it over your heads, and guess what? Start flossing. Statements are so important and so powerful. We're going to catch our breath. We're going to take a deep breath in, and we are going to say, I am strong. I am strong. Exhale. I am healthy. Inhale. I am strong. Exhale. I am healthy. And one more time. I am strong, and I am healthy. Bring it together, hands on the heart. Thank you.
All right, hello. And hopefully you had an opportunity to experience that and try something new to help promote self-care and help promote some laughter. And so with that, let us continue on where we're now going to hear our closing message, and we are honored to do so. We will hear from Abdul Rahman Mohammed, who is the Executive Director and founder of the multidimensional social service agency, My People Clinical Services. Founded on March the 5th, 2005, My People Clinical Services offers a wide array of both therapeutic and non-therapeutic supports, services, and programs. The driving philosophy of My People Clinical Services is derived from the agency's mission statement to enable my people to help your people so that our people will succeed. Abdul is a skilled speaker, spoken word artist, and trainer. He created the Manhood Tree, which is comprised of 10 initiatives that focus on the 5 hoods: boyhood, young adulthood, brotherhood, fatherhood, and manhood. He is a published author of children's books, poetry, motivational books, and has produced 2 spoken word CDs. Abdul is the founder of the Dream Support Network to encourage individuals to live the life of their dreams, and is also on the board of directors for Capital Community College. Abdul is a family man, honoring his wife, 3 children and grandson. He is also a 20-year kidney transplant survivor and enjoys living the life of his dreams with his family. Without further ado, we'll pass the baton to Abdul. Thank you so much, Abdul, for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing today? This has been a fabulous workshop. I feel really inspired and excited about all the information that we received about burnout, and the panel discussion was fabulous, and I truly enjoyed that laughter yoga. So are we am I putting up my PowerPoint, or are you putting up my PowerPoint?
We are leaving it to you if you don't mind.
Okay, no problem. I just happen to have it right here. So for my PowerPoint, what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about 10 quick thoughts about self-care. I thought it would be great to wrap up this conversation just with a quick 10 thoughts that I had about self-care, and hopefully it's in line with everything else that you've heard thus far today. So here's number one. Self-care is one of the highest forms of parenting. I'll say that again. Self-care is one of the highest forms of parenting. So when you take care of yourself, when you are given time just for you, when you are, it allows for you to be able to get back in the game with your children and be at a very high level. You know, instead of being burnt out, instead of being tired, instead of being not ready to do all the things that provide the greatest parenting you can possibly give, when you take care of your self-care, you're able to be in the game at a very high level and do the best kind of parenting. Number two, you should have a self-care routine. So self-care shouldn't be something that you wait until your wick is burnt out and then you say, man, I need to do some self-care. No, you should be consistently doing things that are to, bolster your self-care. And at the end of this presentation, I have a few thoughts. I have a few ideas for you that I think are pretty easy. One of the things in the previous presentation that I liked was that all self-care doesn't have to be something where you have to go out and spend money. So if we have little things that we can do for our self-care on a routine basis that are, free, I think that will really help us out a lot. All right, so self-care is consistent, planned self-care makes you better. So once again, it has to be like all the time you're doing this self-care. It's consistent. It's like, I'm gonna plan for the end of this week, for Saturday, I'm gonna do something just for me. And one of the things I think that once we become parents, sometimes what happens is we believe that it's not just all about us anymore. So we have to focus on our children. If we're married, we have to focus on our spouse. But what I'm telling you is that if you want to be the best for your children and be the best for your spouse, or just be the best in general, consistent and planned self-care is the answer. It is the answer. Trust me. All right. Number 4. Let's be clear what self-care is all about. I want to be clear about that. It's all about you. And so once again, this is very important. You have to have a you mindset when it comes to self-care. And like I said, at the end, I'm gonna give you some quick ones, and you're gonna be like, oh man, I could do that. And so putting yourself first, everybody heard the thing about when you're on an airplane, if there's a problem, make sure you put on your mask first, right? And then you put the mask on someone else. That includes your children. You got to put your mask on first, because if you can't breathe, then how are you going to put the mask on your child? And so it's very important that you keep yourself at a certain level of self-care, of feeling good. And so you have to be the priority. You have to be high up in your own mind. You have to be saying, like, I got to be good so that I can be good for everybody else. See, a lot of people think that if I'm good for everybody else, then that's the way things are going to be. That's how I give my best. I give them everything. I'm going to give everything to them. Well, but what I want to do is help you change the way you think about that. I want you to realize that the more you invest in yourself, the better you are going to be when you deal with everybody else. All right, number 5. Self-care is how you show yourself love. And I want to stop right there. A lot of people have a hard time showing themselves love. If I ask you right now to write down 10 things that you love about yourself, some of you might have a hard time getting to number 10 without talking about somebody else. Just what you love about yourself. So self-care is how you show yourself love, give yourself grace, and recharge your parenting battery. Every day when we're getting into the parenting world, we have to come in with a battery that's on 100. But if you don't do things that are self-care related, that means that you're starting a new day with a battery that's on 50%, that's on 60%. And so when your battery is not fully charged, that means every day you're starting off with a little bit less. And that means that your kids are getting a little bit less. Your spouse is getting a little bit less. And so by taking care of yourself, by loving yourself, by showing yourself love, by giving yourself grace, your battery can be at 100% and everybody can get the best out of you, including you. So before they were talking about your self-care squad, I like that even better than self-care team. I'm gonna still like. So who is on your self-care squad? Some of you guys said, well, I don't have anybody on my self-care squad, right? I think you have to get at least a couple of people on your team, on your squad. You got to get at least a couple people. Whether maybe you got to go back and it's your mom. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's an old friend you got to reconnect with. But the thing is, the reason why you got to have a team is because sometimes self-care is just calling somebody up and doing a little gossip, a little talk about the good old days, a little talk about something that's going on with the celebrities or something like that. Self-care is just giving yourself an opportunity to get something off your chest. And so in order to do that, so you're not talking to yourself, you got to have a team. It's good to have a team. And see, when I'm creating a team, I always try to have people on the team with different capabilities, people on the team that have different skill sets that I could tap into. So maybe you got somebody on the team that's funny. Maybe you got somebody on the team that's motivational. Maybe you got somebody on the team that's resourceful. But you want to be able to create a team that allows when you go to them, they're able to give you a boost. You want to have a boost from your self-care team, your squad. I like that word. All right, number 7. Self-care doesn't take away from your children, it adds to them. This is like, I want to put this in your mindset. For all the parents out there, I mean, you guys are rattling off. Some of you guys have a lot of kids. I mean, I got 3 kids, but I mean, it was like, they're 12, they're 12. No. Okay, so it adds to them. When you are taking care, so I want you to get out of your mind that if I take this time just for me, if I go in the bathroom and instead of taking a quick shower, I take a bath today and I put the bubbles in there and I get all of the other stuff that makes a bath just perfect. I play the music. I put a little sign on the door that says, do not disturb for 30 minutes, right? When you get out, you're going to be better. And so it's going to give you the energy. It's going to give you the excitement. It's going to give you the parenting capability to be better for them. It's going to add to you. So you come out of that bathtub and now instead of making grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner, and you've all done it, we've all done it. We've all done it. Now you're ready to make a real 3-course meal. Why? Because you had that bath, it relaxed you, made you feel good, and now it's time to do some real cooking, right? That's what it's all about. Take a bath enjoy yourself. And then you're gonna get more out of your, it's like you can deal with a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old. I have a 17-year-old in my house right now. My other kids are going, but you can deal with them differently when you're 100%, you're loving yourself, you're taking those good baths. I just gave you one of the self-care things. You can take a bath. It's just so simple. All right, number 8. Self-care. So this is my statement on self-care. Self-care. Do it before you need it. Do it before you need it. You don't want the wick to be burnt to the, I don't know if you guys are candle people, but my wife is a candle person. My house has candles in every single room. I don't know why. I hope she doesn't see this presentation, but there's candles everywhere in my house. And the thing is that if you burn candles all the time, you get to the point where the candle is down to the wax is all the way down to the bottom. You could barely light the candle. If you don't got one of those long things, you can't even light the candle, right? That's you when you don't do your self-care. You're the candle that the wax is all the way down to the bottom because you just won't take care of yourself. Yo, go get a new candle before it gets down there, right? You're the candle. Do your self-care before you're burnt out. Burnt out is what we were talking about earlier. Before you even need it, before you even get to the place of being burnt out, I want you to take care of your self-care. I want you to be thinking about, like, I've got to do some self-care. Today, this is like a sign, right? Today, you should do some self-care. Okay, maybe you can't do it today. Tomorrow, you should do some self-care. We're going to plan some self-care before the end of this week. We got to get it in. All right, this is a good one. I don't even know why I put this one. When I wrote it, I was like, uh-oh, I don't know what I'm going to say. This is not 1960. Okay, what do I mean by that? So if all the women on here, right? This is not 1960. You're not just gonna be at home and you're gonna wait for the husband to come home and you're gonna have his dinner and you got the kids all perfect, right? And the husband's out there. You're not just bringing home bacon. It might be a reverse. This is 2024. Everything is different. Everything is open right now. And so the way things have been, we don't have to do it that way anymore. I want you guys to think about, like, I always wonder why we don't innovate. We should be innovating. It's 2024. By now, we should have figured parenting out. I figured parenting out. If you ever want to come to one of my parenting classes. Anyways, it's not 1960. This is your chance. There are so many self-care things right now that you can do at home, right from your house. Somebody says 15 minutes, 15 minutes of paradise. You can get one of those little foot things. You put your feet in there and it warms your feet up and it moves around, gives you like a massage on your feet. This is at home. I'm not saying you got to go out. There's so many things you could do right at the house. Sometimes with me, I'll go to the store and I'll buy my favorite cereal. And you might say, well, oh, eating a bowl of cereal, self-care? Yes, because most of the time I'm eating oatmeal. I'm over here trying to get in shape. And so I'm eating oatmeal and I'm not taking, so self-care is when you do something a little different. I get me some of that Smacks. I love Smacks. And I have a little bowl of Smacks. It feels good. I'm having my time. It's not a long time, but it's something. It's not 1960. All right, here's my last one. And I'm gonna open it up for questions. I do have some ideas for you. Oh, let me get open it up. This is the last one. Just because this one I got from my wife. She needs to practice self-care. She was stressed out yesterday. We got a big event today. Just because you haven't been practicing good self-care doesn't mean you can't start today. This is like your sign to start practicing self-care religiously. Like it's for you. It's so important. And believe it or not, it will change your life. It will absolutely 100% change your life. And okay, before I go, I would like to give you guys a quick 5 things you could do right now to enhance your self-care. Here's my number 1 thing that you can do to enhance your self-care. Pray. I know you're like, oh, that's it? Yes, pray. I'm gonna tell you why prayer is such a good one, because prayer is on the physical realm and the spiritual realm. It's like you're hitting two levels. And then when you're praying, you can ask for pretty much anything. Imagine, like I always say, like if you ever ask me to like lead a prayer, I'm not one of, you know, some people are really good at that. They'll say some really good stuff. But when I'm by myself, or when it's just me and God, it's like, oh, it's such mwah. And so prayer, get into, I don't know what your religious, you know, what your religion is, but we all know how to pray. And if you don't know how to pray, I'm gonna tell you how you pray. Get somewhere and just ask for what you want in peace. Ask for what you need. Ask for the blessings and the change that you want. I mean, you could imagine. I mean, imagine you think that that's not going to do something for you. Ask God to take the weight off your back. I mean, could you imagine? So that's number one, prayer. I could go on that. I could rant on about that. Number two, believe it or not, and these are all the free ones. Meditate. So prayer, we're asking, meditate. You could get one of those self-directed meditations. They're all over the internet. And there's some of them specific to, like, if you're a woman, you're African American, they got them very specific. You can find self-directed meditation. And you just sit there and listen to the guy or woman and do the breathing. And I'm telling you, it's gonna do something for you. I used to be kind of like weary on meditation. I'd be like, come on, guys. And then I got this, somebody sent me this, I got like this 16-minute audio tape, and this guy, it's a home run every time. It's a home run every single time. All right, number three, dream. I'm very big on dreaming. Dreaming is different from meditation. It's different from praying. Dreaming is saying, like, this is where I am today, and this is where I like to be. These are the things I like to do. These are the places I like to go. This is what I like to see. Like, you know, I don't know about any of you guys, but like I've been to 5 of the 7 wonders of the world, right? Now, that's cool. But the ones I think about all the time, the ones I dream about are the 2 that I haven't been to. I dream about them. I say, oh man, I could imagine being there, taking a picture, being there, seeing the beauty of it. I still gotta go see the Taj Mahal and Christ the Redeemer in Brazil. Taj Mahal is in India. So those are just dream. You, once again, your dreams, then the goal is of always you want to make a dream become reality. And the kids, for all of you guys with little kids, they're gonna grow up. Trust me. My kid used to be little. Now my son is 17. My daughter is 18. My other daughter's 29. They're pretty much gone. All right, number 4, take a day. I don't know what's going on in the chat. I'm not reading it right now. I'm on a roll. I'm almost done. Number 4, take a day. One day, you drop the kids off with the grandparents. You drop the kids off with husband, with the wife. You take them to one of those places. They got places where you could drop kids off for a few hours. Hey, self-care is taking a day and saying, you're not a bad parent just because you said, out of all these days that I've been doing all this parenting, all this caring for, today I need to care for myself. That doesn't make you bad. That makes you smart. Number 5, and I got 10 more, but I'm gonna stop right here. This is number 5. Take 2 days if you need to. I just thought I would double down on taking a day. Take 2 days. All right, that's my presentation. I'm gonna end off with, are there any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, feedback, criticism?
We received your, first of all, thank you so much, Abdul. No criticisms, nothing at all. We're still absorbing it all.
I try to overwhelm the audience. I get excited and I try to just give it to the people, you know?
And you gave it to us well. We received it well. Thank you so, so, so much. And we just cannot thank you enough for you keeping it real with your message. And I like the whole in terms of the team squad or not the team squad, the self-care squad, self-care team, whatever the case may be, to get your group to support you. But thank you also for sharing with us the importance of self-care and how it is not particular to a gender, that regardless of how you identify, it's important for you to practice self-care, to model for your children. So thank you. And thank all of you for being here. We know that we are beyond the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap up, but we thank you so much for your attentiveness in being a part of this webinar. Certainly want to thank Diana Reyes for opening us up to get our interpretive services heard. Deputy Commissioner Elena Trueworthy, thank you for your ongoing support of this and many other efforts. Align and Elevate, represented by Joe and Iola, thank you for your powerful keynote message. Certainly gave us a lot to think about and to practice. Thank you for those families that participate in our 4 Families by Families Keep It Real video series. Also, Shanae Russell and Christine Morales, thank you so much for your leadership with Parent Cabinet and with 2Gen. And speaking of 2Gen, certainly have to thank Marinda, Caitlin, Maria, Stefan, Shanae, Keisha for representing well in our panel discussion and in our communities at large. Thank you so very much. For those of you who participate in laughing yoga, hopefully you will carry that on and find helpful ways to laugh and to practice self-care in that activity. And last but not least at all, Abdul, thank you so much once again for participating and sharing with us the importance of self-care and how to do that. Again, all of you, we did this work, this webinar in February intentionally because Valentine's Day can be practiced year-round, starting with yourself. So make sure to do that because you are important, you are a priority. Self-care is not selfish. With that being said, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to you taking care of you. Bye.